Good morning, dear students. Today in our botany class, we will learn about bryophytes and pteridophytes. Last class itself, you will learn about the algae. Algae are the living plants. It is a primitive plants. They live mostly in water. Continuously, we will learn about the bryophytes and pteridophytes. First, we will learn about the bryophytes. See that the picture. The plants grow abundantly on the rock surface like a carpet. They are tiny plants. But it is not algae. Last class itself you learn about the algae. They are plant bodies thallus. They grow on the water. They are slippery on the rock surface. That's the algae. But here, this is look like a carpet. They have a tiny plants. It's the first primitive land plants. These plants, they have the root-like structure, stem-like structure, leaf-like structure. The plant body is called thallus. Already you know about the thallus. In algae, the plant body is not differentiated into root, stem and leaves. That is called thallus. But here, they have the thallus is a root-like structure, stem-like structure and leaf-like structure. They grow abundantly on the rock surface at the rainy time on the wall of the bricks. Like this, there is a small plants. It is the first primitive land plants. Bryophytes are the first primitive land plants. These bryophytes, the scientists believe from their ancestor is algae. The origin from the algae only, because algae, they do not have the root, stem and leaves, but the bryophytes, they have the root-like, stem-like, leaf-like structure. That's why algae are the ancestor of bryophytes. They are also simple embryophytes. Embryophytes means we know that they do not produce seeds, but they develop from the embryo. The plant body is developed from the embryo. They have the cryptogams. They are the cryptogams. They mostly grow on the moist and shady habitat. Yes, these bryophytes cannot grow on the direct sunlight because it's a primitive. It's a short plant. It's a small plant which grow on the shady places or a moisture area. It is a cryptogams. That means they do not produce flowers, fruits and seeds. Yes, and they do not have the xylem and phloem. That's why they are called non-vascular cryptogams. Non-vascular cryptogams. Yes. And these plants also called amphibians of the plant kingdom. The bryophytes are also called amphibians of the plant kingdom because due to the plants live in water, the plants live in land, but they need water for their fertilization. If they complete their life cycle, they need water. So we know that frog is called amphibian because they live in both land and water. Like this, the bryophytes also, they live in land, but they need water for fertilization. That's why in plant kingdom, bryophytes are called amphibians of the plant kingdom. Yes. And then one more interesting fact, father of Indian bryology. Bryology is nothing but a subject study about the bryophytes. Father of Indian bryology. Who is known as the father of Indian bryology? Do you know? Yes, Shivram Kaship. Shivram Kaship. He published books like liverworts of Western Himalayas and Punjab. He was an Indian bryologist. He explained about so many bryophyte plants. Yes. Okay. Next, we will learn about the general characteristics of bryophytes, or the general characteristics of thallus of bryophytes. Okay. See that the pictures, the plant body is gametophyte. What do you mean by gametophyte? The plant which produce the gametes, that is called gametophyte. If the plants which produce spores, they are called sporophyte. Bryophytes, the plant body which produce gametes, that's why the plant body is called gametophyte. We are these gametophyte, I already told, they differentiate into root, stem and leaf. Yes, root-like structure. That is called also known as the rhizoids. See that the picture, this is the bryophytes. They have the root-like structure and stem-like structure and leaf-like structure. That's why it's the first primitive land plants, but it's not success in their land. Yes. Next, most of the primitive land plants are, most of the bryophytes, primitive land plants, they are dwellers because they are not grow very well erect like a tree. They are grow on the creeping on the soil surface. They grow in horizontally. Yes, a good example. Most of the bryophytes are grow in the aquatic region only because they are the emerges from the water sources. That's why they are most of them are aquatic, and some of them they are in land surface, terrestrial. Riella and Rhixocarpus, see that the pictures, this is one of the bryophytes. The plant body is a root-like structure and stem, leaf are present. It's differentiated, but it's live in water. That's why they are called aquatic bryophytes. Yes. These gametophytic phase, there's a, you know that from the algae onwards you learn about the life cycle of plant body. The plant body shows the gametophytic following the sporophyte. Like there's bryophytes also, the plant body is gametophyte. After that they following the sporophytic generation, shows the alternation of generation. Yes. Gametophytic phase is conspicuous and long living phase in their life cycle. Yes. In this bryophytes, sporophytic phase is very short period. The gametophytic phase is a long phase, and it is a conspicuous. Yes. The plant body, thalloid form. Some of the bryophytes, the plant body is a thalloid form. A good example, liverworts and hornworts. Some of the bryophytes, is advanced characters of the bryophytes, they have the leaf-like structure. The plant body is a leaf-like structure. A good example, mosses. See that the picture. Yes, liverworts is nothing but the bryophytes. The plant bodies look like a liver. They grow spreading on the soil surface. That's why they are called liverworts. On the ground attached to the substratum by means of rhizoids. These liverworts do not have any special root. What's the difference between the root and rhizoids? The rhizoids are the fixing organ, fixation of the plant to the soil, but roots are absorbing water from the soil. Rhizoids, it fixes the plant body into the soil. Yes, the rhizoids are present in the liverworts. Yes, the two types of rhizoids they are observed in bryophytes. One is a smooth-walled rhizoids, another is a pegged or tubulated structure. Some of the bryophytes, the roots are there is the rhizoids are smooth-walled. They do not have any furrows and ridges. But some of them they are pegged or a tubular structure. There may be two different. There is a very important one more question. Bryophytes shows two different kinds of rhizoids. One is a smooth-walled rhizoids. Another one is a pegged or tuberculate rhizoids. And also the plant body shows the multicellular scales. Already you saw the picture. You saw the picture. The multicellular scales on their body surface are present. Yes. And mosses plants they grow erect with the external axis there is a central axis bearing a leaf-like expansion. Leaf-like, yes, in mosses plants look like a normal plant. The leaves are expansion. But in bryophytes, among the bryophytes, the mosses is the advanced one. That's why they have the leaf-like structure, and the plants they grow erect like a central axis, like a normal growing plant. Then they have the multicellular rhizoids are present. Is one of the unique character of mosses. Mosses plants, the rhizoids are multicellular. But before that, Rhixia markansia, that's the name of some type of bryophytes. These plants, they have the smooth-walled or tuberculated rhizoids are present only. But in mosses plants, they have the multicellular rhizoids are present. And then one more important point. In these bryophytes, vessels are absent. Vessels are absent. See that the pictures, so many bryophytes, the pictures are, I explained in this picture. There is a Rhixia markansia. The plant bodies look like a scales. The thallus, they have the scales and rhizoids are present. Yes. And these bryophytes, vessels are absent. Especially xylem and phloem is absent. That's why they are called non-vascular cryptogams. Cryptogams means they do not produce flowers, fruits and seeds. Yes. Next we briefly learn about the reproduction in bryophytes. Bryophytes can reproduce in two different methods. One is vegetative reproduction, another one is sexual reproduction. First we learn about the vegetative reproduction. Vegetative reproduction takes place by means of various methods. In some of the bryophytes like Rhixia Flutans, they produce by the adventitious buds. The buds are detached from the parent plant, they grow as an individual plant. That is one of the method of reproduction, which is occur in Rixia flutans. Then another one method of vegetative reproduction, tubers development. Tubers developments we can observe in Anthoceras. Vegetative reproduction means you know that without the sex cells, without the gametes involvement, a plant body divided into many pieces, each piece develop into a new plant, but that is called vegetative reproduction. And tuber formation is a good example, Anthoceras. Another one method of vegetative reproduction, some small detachable branches are produced, or blood bodies or brood bodies, that is what is called brood bodies are produced. Example, Bryopteris fruticulosa. Bryopteris fruticulosa plant, we can observe some brood bodies. There is nothing but detachable branches. If they are detached, they can grow as an individual new plant. Then another one is a propagative organs. Yes, some of the bryophytes, they produce a special structure called a gemma cup, a cup-like structure. Within a cup-like structure, they detach from the parent plant, they grow as a new individual. That is called gemma cup. This is produced at the time of reproduction. We can observe in Markantia plant. See that the picture, this is the gemma cup. It's a small cup-like structure. They emerges from the thallus. They, after matured, they detach from the plant and it will grow as a new individual plant. This is called a special structure observed in Markantia. That is called nothing but a gemma cup. Yes. Then next we learn about the sexual reproduction in bryophytes. Bryophytes also involved in sexual reproduction. They produce two different sex organs. Look at the picture. One bryophytes shows the anthridium, it is a male sex organ, and another one is the archegonium, it is a female sex organ. These anthridium produced anthrozoid is a male gamete. Yes, anthrozoid is a male gamete. Archegonium is a female sex organ which produces egg cells. Anthridium is a male sex organ which produces a anthrozoid. This is a biflagellate anthrozoid is present. Anthrozoid is a male gamete. They are swim in water. And they are these anthridium and archegonium is a sex organ which covered by the multicellular structure. They produce gametes. The reproduction type is oogamous. What do you mean by oogamous? One large non-motile gametes fused with the small motile gametes is called oogamous. Sexual reproduction in bryophytes and algae, you may be learning in algae itself. There may be three types: isogamous, anisogamous, oogamous. Oogamous means both the gametes are morphologically and physiologically dissimilar gametes are fused to form a zygote. That is called oogamous type, which is observed in bryophytes. Yes. The anthridia, which produce a biflagellate anthrozoids. I already told anthrozoids are the male gamete which produced from the anthridium is a multicellular sex organ. And then archegonium produce the egg cells. These egg is a female gamete. By the fertilization of both anthrozoids and eggs fused to form a zygote. The fertilization takes place in water only. That's why these bryophytes is also known as amphibians of the plant kingdom, because water is essential for fertilization. Without water, they cannot complete their life cycle. That's why bryophytes are also known as amphibians of the plant kingdom. Yes. The zygote is the first stage of sporophytic generation. I already told plant body is a gametophyte. They produce two sex organ, anthridium and archegonium. Anthridium produce anthrozoid, archegonium produce egg cell. These two gametes are fused to form a zygote. Before the formation of zygote, the plant body is called gametophyte because they only produce gametes. After the zygote formation, from the zygote, the plant body enter into the sporophytic generation. Yes, the zygote undergoes mitotic cell division to produce a multicellular embryo-like structure. This is called embryogenic. That's why they are also known as embryogenic plant body. Yes, embryogenic is exoscopic. We can observe the embryos from these bryophytes. The embryo divides and gives rise to a sporophyte. From the embryo, they develop into a sporophyte. Yes. So it shows the alternation of generation, gametophytic following the sporophyte. The sporophyte is depending on the gametophyte. Yes, gametophyte is independent, but the sporophyte is depending on the gametophyte. It shows the alternation of life cycle. Yes, see that the picture, this is called, this plant is called the Bryophytes. They differentiate into 3 different parts: food, seta and capsule. Food is the base part of the plant body which fixes the plant into the soil, and a long tubular structure that is called setae, and the terminal portion is called capsule, which is observed in Bryophytes. Yes. Plant body of some advanced Bryophytes shows 3 different parts: food, seta and capsule. Food is the basal portion, I already told you, which fixes the plant into the soil, embedded in the gametophytic generation. Yes, from the zygote, the food is developed. There is a basal portion of the plant body. Yes, the diploid spore mother cell found in the capsule. Yes, spore is produced in the capsule region. The terminal region, they have the capsules, they have the mother cell, they undergoes meiotic cell division. Here, meiotic cell division takes place. Yes, after the zygote formation undergoes the mitotic cell division, they produce the spores, and then these spores, mother cells, gives rise to a haploid spores by the meiosis cell division. It's a very, very important one more question. Yes, and then Bryophytes are homosporous. They produce only one kind of spores. Some we learn about the Pteridophytes. They shows the 2 different kinds of spores they produce. That's why they are called heterosporous. Pteridophytes are heterosporous, but Bryophytes are homosporous because they produce only one kind of spores. Some of the sporophytes, they have the teeth-like structure that is called elaters. Elaters are present, which helps to dispersal of spores. If the spores are matured, the elaters is a teeth-like structure. It will burst and the spores are liberated from the sporophyte body and fall into the long distance. The spores germinate into a new plant body that is called gametophytes. Example, Markantia. Elaters can observe in Markantia plant. Yes, a spore germinate and produce a gametophyte. Yes, this is the life cycle of Bryophyte. The plant body is gametophyte, which produce gametes. After the fertilization, the zygote is developed. The zygote is a sporophytic generation. The zygote develops into spore mother cell. Spore mother cell develops into a spores. The spores are spreading to the nearest place and they grow as a new individual plant. That's why it shows the alternation of generation, gametophytic following the sporophytic generation. Gametophytic is independent, but the sporophytic is depending on the gametophyte. Yes, the zygote, embryo and sporogonium are constitute the sporophytic phase. Yes, sporophytic phase which includes zygote, embryo and sporogonium. Gametophytic phase which include thallus, anthidium, archegonium, sperm, there is a biflagellate anthozoid and egg. These are the gametophytic phase, but the sporophytic phase which include zygote, embryo and sporangium. The green long living haploid phase is called gametophytic phase. Gametophytic phase is haploid in nature. They live in long life. Sporophytic phase is very short. They distinguish into 3 parts: food, seta and capsule. This is the sporophytic generation. Yes, this is the life cycle of Bryophytes. Reproduction, both vegetative and sexual reproduction is occur. These Bryophytes are classified by the scientist Prosker 1957. Bryophytes classified into 3 classes: Hepaticopsida, Anthoceratopsida, Bryopsida. If you repeatedly say this word, only you can remember in your mind. Yes, Hepaticopsida, Anthoceratopsida, Bryopsida. Hepaticopsida, some example for Hepaticopsida: Rixia, Markantia, Porella. These are the Hepaticopsida groups. Anthoceratopsida, a good example, Anthoceras and Dendrosus. These are some of the example for Anthoceratopsida. Bryopsida, a good example, Funaria, Polytrichum and Sphagnum. These are some of the example for Bryopsida. So all the Bryophytes classified into 3 groups only: Hepaticopsida, Anthoceratopsida and Bryopsida. Yes, next we learn about the economic importance of Bryophytes. How these Bryophytes are useful in human being. Look at the picture. This is the one of the Bryophytes, Bryopsida group, Sphagnum. It is a Sphagnum Bryophytes, which is mainly used as a fuel. This sphagnum, which is a large amount of sphagnum, which get compressed under the soil and hardened to become a peat, like a coal. They become a fuels. This sphagnum, which is compressed or under the soil, become a peat. In North Europe countries, the peat is the main fuel for commercial scale. Most of the European countries, the people use the fuel as a peat. Peat is used as a fuel. This is a very, very important one more question. Peat used as a fuel. Peat not only gives fuel, and also which gives the nitrate, brown dye, and tanning materials are obtained from the peat. Yes, nitrate, brown dye, and tanning material. We know that some leather product which is obtained from this peat only. Peat is very much useful to us. Yes, and then these bryophytes are used in horticulture, mainly packing of plant material with the holding capacity, water holding capacity. These bryophytes can add it in the back, because due to the water holding capacity, these bryophytes naturally having the water holding capacity. That's why they use as a horticulture packing materials. And then some bryophytes like Markansia polymorpha, which is used to cure pulmonary tuberculosis, TB disease, which can be cured by these Markansia polymorpha. Markansia polymorpha is a bryophytes which is mainly used to cure the TB, tuberculosis. And then some of the bryophytes which is used as a food, especially in tribal people, sphagnum, bryum, polytrichum, generally they are used as a food. And then bryophytes very, very important role in very useful in our environment to soil conservation and soil formation. Yes, the rock become after the succession period. We know that very long period the rock become a large dense forest, because due to these bryophytes become a soil formation from the rock. Is very, very important role, because which the root which penetrate into the rock surface and broken into small pieces to become a soil. And these bryophytes are also very much useful for soil conservation. At the time of rainy, the minerals can capture by these bryophytes, so it enrich the soil nutrition, so which conserve the soil fertility. Yes. And then last one, all the bryophytes are autotrophs. They can prepare their own food because they are the green plants. But some example is a peculiar character, Buxbaumia aphela and Cryptothalus mirabilis. Say once again, Buxbaumia aphela, Cryptothalus mirabilis. These are the saprophytic bryophytes, because they can grow on the dead and decaying organic matter. They lack chlorophyll. They are colorless, like a fungus. They can obtain the nutrition from the dead and organic matter. See that the picture, there is the Buxbaumia aphela, and then see that the Cryptothalus mirabilis. This is the Cryptothalus mirabilis. They due to the lack of chlorophyll, they cannot prepare their own food. They taking the nourishment from the dead and decaying organic matter. Good example. Some example for these saprophytic bryophytes: Buxbaumia aphela and Cryptothalus mirabilis. Okay, that's all. This is the information about the bryophytes. Next, you will learn about Pteridophytes. See that the picture. This is the Pteridophytes. Pteridophytes are the seedless vascular cryptogams. Do you know already? Vascular cryptogams means they have the xylem and phloem, but cryptogams means they do not produce the seeds. Flowers, fruits and seeds cannot be produced. So seedless vascular cryptogams. Pteridophytes are called seedless vascular. Look at the picture. This is the pteridophyte plants. Comparatively, bryophytes, pteridophytes are the advanced one. Comparatively, algae, bryophytes are the advanced one. So algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes. Likewise, the plants can evolve in our earth surface over million of years ago. Yes. Next, we learn about the pteridophytes. Is the first true land plants. Bryophytes is the first land plants, but they are not adapted to live in land. They need water to complete their life cycle. They grow only shady places, I already told. But these pteridophytes, they can grow directly on the sunlight. That's why they are called first true land plants. They have the true root, true stem, and true leaves. Yes. And also they have the xylem and phloem is present. First land plants, they have the vascular tissues, xylem and phloem is present. That's why they are called vascular cryptogams. The pteridophytes is also known as vascular cryptogams. But I already told bryophytes are called non-vascular cryptogams. Pteridophytes are called vascular cryptogams. Some of the example for pteridophytes: club moss, horsetail, quillworts, water ferns, and tree ferns. These are the types of pteridophytes grow among the various places: club moss, horsetail, quillworts, water ferns, and tree ferns. These pteridophytes, the scientists believe, over 400 million years ago, they grew abundantly on the earth crust. Especially Devonian period, the geological time scale, they can divide into various era. That is Paleozoic era, Proterozoic era, like this. These Paleozoic era, pteridophytes grow much more. Paleozoic era is considered as 400 million years ago. Among this Devonian period of Paleozoic era, the pteridophytes grow abundantly. It's very important. One more questions. Devonian period of Paleozoic era only, the pteridophytes grow abundantly. These pteridophytes also small herbaceous plants. Herbaceous means you know that they have, the stem is very soft. They grow well in moist area. They grow on the cool and shady places where water is available. These also more or less they look like a bryophytes, but they comparatively there are some differences between the bryophytes and pteridophytes. The pteridophytes have the root, stem, and leaves, and they have the vascular tissues. They have the small herbaceous plants. Yes. Next we learn about the general characteristics of pteridophytes. I already told bryophytes are called, the plant body is called gametophyte, but here pteridophytes are called, plant body is called sporophyte because they are diploid in nature. 2n means the number of chromosomes are 2 sets. The plant body is diploid, sporophyte in nature, and it is a dominant phase is sporophyte. I already told in bryophytes the gametophytic phase is a dominant phase, but in pteridophytes completely opposite. The sporophytic phase is dominant. It is differentiated. The plant body is sporophyte because they produce spores, but the plant body of bryophytes called gametophyte because they produce 2 gametes. There is an anthrozoid and male and female gametes. Egg cells are produced by the plant body. But here the pteridophytes, the plant body which produces spores directly. That's why they are called a sporophytic plant. The plant body is sporophyte. They differentiate root, stem, and leaves. And these plants, the roots are adventitious, not rhizoids. Bryophytes we can see rhizoids are present, but in pteridophytes the roots are adventitious roots are present. Adventitious roots we know that the roots emerges from any other plant body like a uniform growth, not differentiated into primary, secondary, tertiary root like the taproot, but it is an adventitious root. Look like a banana. They have some adventitious roots are present. Yes, in bryophytes also adventitious roots are present. The stems are monopodial, only do not have any branches. Monopodial means they are short, erect. It does not have any branches. Or dichotomous branches. Sometimes some plants they have the dichotomous branches are observed in pteridophytes. And leaves may be microphyllous or megaphyllous. The leaves are microphyllous or megaphyllous. Some of the pteridophyte plants, the leaves are very small, tiny, like a trunk-like structure. They are called microphyllous. Some of the pteridophyte plants, the leaves are large in size. They are called megaphyllous leaves. Yes, the roots are adventitious. The stem shows monopodial or sometimes dichotomous branching, and leaves may be a microphyllous or megaphyllous. And then, yes, there's a very new term, steel. Steel is originate from the pteridophytes only. Steel is nothing but a arrangement of xylem and phloem. Because xylem and phloem only present from the pteridophytes only. From the pteridophyte, next next emerges the earth planet is a gymnosperm, angiosperm. All these plants they have the vascular tissues. But before the pteridophyte, up to algae, bryophytes, they do not have the vascular tissues. So Bryophytes, the Bryophytes up to Bryophytes, they are non-vascular cryptogams, but Pteridophytes are the vascular cryptogams. They have the steel is present. Mostly Pteridophytes are primitive land plants. That's why they are the protosteels are present. But in some plants like Marcella, there is a Marcella plant, Marsillia, yes, a Marsillia plant. Siphonosteels can absorb. Siphonosteel, you learn about next class. I will explain about these different kinds of steels. I will explain briefly. But most is very important. One more question: Pteridophytes absorb protosteel. Protosteel is the arrangement of xylem and phloem in Pteridophytes. Siphonosteel which absorb in Marsillia. Yes. And then one more important, very important point. They have the xylem and phloem, but among the xylem, the tracheids are major water conducting elements in Pteridophytes. But we can observe the angiosperm flowering plants. The water conducting elements is vessels. Vessels and the tracheids, some differences among them. Xylem and xylem, they have tracheids and vessels. Tracheids are the narrow. See that the pictures. This is the tracheids. They have the narrow pointed end. But observe the vessels. They have the broad like structure. The cells are arranged one above the other. The vessels are observed in some Pteridophytes, especially some Pteridophytes. Mostly vessels are observed in angiosperm, gymnosperm. But in Pteridophytes, the vessels are observed in selaginella. But most of the Pteridophytes, the tracheids only present. It's a chief water conducting element of Pteridophytes. If the question is asked from any one more questions, chief water conducting elements in Pteridophytes is tracheids. But especially in selaginella. Selaginella is an advanced group of Pteridophytes. They have the vessels are present. Okay. Then next we learn about the reproduction Pteridophytes. I already told the plant body which produces spores. That's why they are called the sporophyte. Look at the picture. On the lower surface of the Pteridophyte plants, the microphyllous leaves or megaphyllous leaves, they have some small spherical bodies are produced that is called as sorus, or they are spore producing organism that is called sporogonium. Look at the picture. On the lower surface of the leaves, some linear arrangement of some spores are present. Yes. The spores are fell down from the leaf on the soil. The spores develop into a prothallus. See that the next picture, prothallus. Prothallus is nothing but a first formed thallus. From the prothallus only the plant body which develop into sporophytic generation. So we briefly learn about this reproduction in Pteridophytes. Yes. In Pteridophytes also shows the vegetative and sexual reproduction. Vegetative reproduction which includes fragmentation, resting buds, root tubers and adventitious buds, all these methods which are observed in Pteridophytes, vegetative reproduction. Fragmentation, we know that some plant body cut into small pieces, each piece develop into a new plant body. Resting buds, we know that some of the buds develop from the plant body and then matured, it detached from the plant, it will grow as a new individual plant. And root tubers, already we know that like underground rise root, that is adventitious roots, they produce a small tubular structure that is called tubers, they develop into a new plant body. These are the vegetative reproduction. And then sexual reproduction in Pteridophytes is also oogamous types. Already Bryophytes also we learned same as it is. Sexual reproduction takes place by means of oogamous types in both Bryophytes and Pteridophytes. Here also the sex organs antherium and archegonium are produced by the prothallus. Sex organs antherium and archegonium. Antherium is a male sex organ, it is a multicellular structure. Archegonium is a female sex organ, it is also multicellular structure produced by the prothallus. Antherium produced multiflagellate anthrozoids are produced. Antherium which produce the male gametes, multiflagellate anthrozoid. What is the difference between the Bryophytes and Pteridophytes? Bryophytes produce biflagellate anthrozoids, but Pteridophytes which produce multiflagellate anthrozoids. Yes, and archegonium is a flask-like shaped. They have the broad venter and elongated narrow neck And the venter possesses the egg. Venter only. The venter is the basal part. They have the long, broad ventral region. They have the egg or ovum is present. Neck canal cells. This is the structure of archegonium. This is the structure of archegonium. In these pteridophytes, apogamy and apospore is present. What do you mean by apogamy? Apo means without. The plants also reproduce without the gametes involvement. That is called apogamy. What do you mean by apospory? Apo means without. Without the spores, without the involvement of spores, the plant can able to produce a plant body. So, the plants can produce apogamy and apospory. Both the methods the plant can reproduce takes place. Yes, see that the life cycle, the plant body is sporophyte following the gametophytic phase, and this shows the life cycle. The plant body which produces the spores on the lower surface, the spores fell down and developed the prothallus. It's a heart-like structure. From the prothallus, male and female sex organs are developed, that is Anthelium and Archegonium. Anthelium produced multiflagellate anthrozoid. They are freely swim in water. The fertilization need water for fertilization. And then the female sex organ, Archegonium, they have the venter and neck canal cells. Venter cells, they have the egg cells are present. The fertilization takes place inside the Archegonium. It's one of the peculiar character of angiosperm. The developed angiosperm characters is similar to the pteridophytes, because fertilization, Bryophytes, fertilization takes place in water, but here fertilization takes place in female sex organ Archegonium. The egg and multiflagellate anthrozoid fused in its female sex organ Archegonium. It's one of the peculiar character of pteridophytes. You remember that. Okay. Next we learn about classification. Pteridophytes classified by Reamer, 1954. Reamer classified into 5 subdivision. Reamer divided pteridophytes into 5 subdivision. One is Xylophytopsida. Say once again, if you say repeatedly only, you can remember in your mind. Xylophytopsida, and then Xylotopsida, Xylotopsida, Lycopsida, Spinopsida, and Pteropsida. P is silent. Pteropsida, not Pteropsida. P is silent. Pteropsida only pronounced. If you write, you can write the P. Yes, the 5 subdivisions of pteridophytes are Xylophytopsida, Xylotopsida, Lycopsida, Spinopsida, Pteropsida. I once again repeat: Xylophytopsida, Xylotopsida, Lycopsida, Spinopsida, and Pteropsida. They include 19 orders and 48 families. Okay, that's all. This is the pteridophytes. And one more important thing: these pteridophytes also economically value to us. Pteridophytes like some pteridophyte plants. Some pteridophyte plants. Yes, some pteridophytes like Marsilia, which is used as a food, and Azolla, which is used as a biofertilizers, and Bryophytes, which is used as a treatment of tapeworm. As in our stomach, some worms are present, they can eradicate by the Bryophytes pteridophytes. And Teris vitiata, which remove the heavy metals from the soil by bioremediation. Yes, it's very much useful in cleaning the environment. Bioremediation, heavy metals can be removed by the Teris vitiata. And then cut flower arrangement, mainly used for these ferns. Flower arrangement in decoration, they use this pteridophytes, which is for cut flower arrangement. And then Pteridium, which is used as a leaves yielding green dye. Pteridium pteridophytes is one of the Pteridium is a green yielding dye. Green yield dye, which is extracted from the Pteridium. And then stem of scoring is ecostem, which is mainly used in stem for scoring. And then Xylotum, Lycopodium, Selaginella, these plants are mainly used as ornamental for their beautiful leaves and the microphyllous and megaphyllous structure. They are grown in the front of the bungalows and houses. There's Xylotum, Lycopodium, Selaginella. These are the ornamental plants which is mainly used as economic value. Yes, one of the important facts: the dominance of vascular plants is due to the development of extensive root system. Yes, pteridophytes is the dominant plant comparatively algae, Bryophytes, because due to the extensive root system and the efficient conducting system, there is a xylem and phloem is present, and cuticle to prevent desiccation, and stomata for effective gaseous exchange. All these are the development of advanced characters from the Bryophytes. Yes, next we learn about types of steel. Yes, steel, I already told, steel is nothing but the arrangement of xylem and phloem. Vascular tissues already learned from lower class onwards. Vascular tissues nothing but the xylem and phloem. They are commonly called vascular tissues. Vascular tissues not only contain xylem and phloem, they also contain pericycle, medullary race, pith. Xylem, phloem, medullary race, pith, pericycle. All these are commonly called steel. The steel are two types: protosteel, siphonosteel. Already told, Pteridophytes shows only protosteel. Only Selaginella having the siphonosteel. Yes, protosteel nothing but a phloem surrounds the xylem. Phloem is present in the center, the xylem is present. Around the xylem, the phloem is present. Phloem surrounds the xylem. That is a protosteel. I once again explain. Protosteel is nothing but a, see that the pictures, the center xylem is present. Around this, yes, this is the protosteel. Center xylem is present. Around the xylem, phloem is present. This is called protosteel. Protosteel is further classified into haplosteel, actinosteel, plectosteel, mixed protosteel. There may be 4 types. Protosteel further classified into 4 types: haplosteel, actinosteel, plectosteel, and mixed protosteel. We learn one by one. Haplosteel is nothing but a xylem surrounded by phloem is known as haplosteel. Yes, haplosteel, the xylem is surrounded by phloem. Xylem is present in the center and surround the phloem. Example, Selaginella we can observe the haplosteel. Yes, and then actinosteel, star-shaped xylem. Yes, see that the pictures, actinosteel, star-shaped xylem is present, and around the phloem is present. That is called actinosteel. That steel is called, the arrangement of xylem and phloem is called steel. Center star-shaped xylem and around the phloem, that is called actinosteel. Example, Lycopodium, Lycopodium serratum. This actinosteel you can observe in Lycopodium serratum. This is called actinosteel. Yes. And then plectosteel. Plectosteel is nothing but a xylem plates alternate with the phloem plates. Xylem look like a plate. Look at the picture, plectosteel. The xylem is arranged in a plate-like structure. In between the plate, phloem plates are present. These arrangement of plectosteel observed in Lycopodium clavatum. Lycopodium clavatum. And then mixed protosteel. Mixed protosteel is nothing but a xylem groups uniformly scattered in the phloem. Xylem uniformly scattered on the phloem. That is called mixed protosteel. This is observed in Lycopodium cernum. So all these are called protosteel. Protosteel further classified into 4 types: haplosteel, actinosteel, plectosteel, mixed protosteel. Okay. Next you will learn about siphonosteel. Siphonosteel is nothing but a center xylem is center phloem is surrounded by xylem. Center phloem is present. Phloem with the pith is also present. In protosteel, pith is absent. But in siphonosteel, pith is center and then pith with the phloem, and the phloem is surrounded by xylem. I already told protosteel, xylem is center, phloem surround the xylem. But siphonosteel, xylem is surrounded by phloem. Yes, these further classified into ectofolic siphonosteel, amphifolic siphonosteel, solenosteel, U-steel, atactosteel, and polycyclic steel. All these are the siphonosteel. Ectophilic siphonosteel, amphifolic siphonosteel, solenosteel, U-steel, atactosteel, and polycyclic siphonosteel. Yes, first we learn about ectofloic siphonosteel. Ectofloic siphonosteel, see the picture. The phloem is restricted only in the external side of the xylem. Phloem is present on the external side of the xylem. This is called ectofloic siphonosteel, which is observed, pith is present in center, which is observed in osmunda. Good example, osmunda. Ectofloic siphonosteel is very, very important 1 mark question, osmunda. And then amphifloic siphonosteel. Amphifloic siphonosteel, The phloem is present on both the sides of xylem. The phloem is present on the both the side of, see that the red color picture is the xylem. On both the sides of xylem, phloem is present. That is called amphiploic siphonostele. The pith is in the center. Example, Marsilia. The pith is present on the center. Yes, next, solenostele. See that the picture, solenostele. The stele is perforated at a place or a place corresponding the origin of leaf trace. Yes, they have the small leaf traces present. That is called solenostele. Same as it is amphiploic siphonostele, but solenostele, they have the leaf traces present. Yes, and then the solenostele may be two types: ectoploic solenostele and amphiploic solenostele and dictyostele. Yes, it may be three types. Solenostele may be three types: ectoploic solenostele, amphiploic solenostele, dictyostele. Yes, ectoploic solenostele, pith in the center and the xylem is surrounded by the phloem. Yes, the pith is at the center, xylem is surrounded by phloem. Example, Asmunda. That is called ectoploic solenostele. Yes. And then amphiploic solenostele, the pith at the center and phloem is on both the sides of the xylem. Yes, that is called amphiploic. Amphi means the center xylem is present, on both sides phloem is present. Example, adiantum pedantum. Adiantum pedantum is a good example for amphiploic solenostele. Pith at the center, the phloem is present on both the sides of xylem. And then dictyostele, the stele separated into several vascular strands. This is the dictyostele. The stele is separated into several vascular strands. Each strand is called meristele. This is called meristele. Each strand is called meristele. Yes, example, adiantum capillus. The stele is separated into several vascular strands, and each separation is called meristele. Very, very important, one more question. Dictyostele have many meristeles present. And the next you will learn about eustele. Eustele, the stele is split into distinct collateral vascular bundle around the pith. Center pith is present, and the vascular bundles look like a wedge shaped. The vascular bundles are separated into a wedge shape. That is called collateral vascular bundle around the pith. A good example, dicot stem. Dicot stem, we can observe the eustele. And then atactostele, the stele split into distinct collateral vascular bundle. The vascular bundles are scattered. The collateral vascular bundle, that is a wedge shape. Wedge shape means that the vascular bundles look like a wedge shape. The vascular bundles are scattered on the ground tissues. Example, monocot stem. This atactostele observed in monocot stem, eustele observed in dicot stem. And polycyclic stele. Polycyclic stele, vascular tissues are present in the form of two or more concentric cylinders. Yes, this is the polycyclic stele. The vascular tissues present in the form of two or more concentric cylinders like a circular structure. Example, pteridium. Pteridium plant, you can observe the polycyclic stele. Yes, I once again repeat, siphonostele, xylem is surrounded by phloem. Center pith is present. They may be further classified into ectophilic siphonostele, amphiploic siphonostele, solenostele, eustele, atactostele, polycyclic stele. Ectophilic siphonostele is nothing but a phloem is restricted only in the external side of the xylem. Pith is in the center. Example, Asmunda. Then amphiploic siphonostele, the phloem present on both the sides of xylem. The pith is in the center. Example, Marsilia. Then solenostele, the stele perforated at a place of origin or a leaf trace is present. There may be further three types: ectoploic solenostele, amphiploic solenostele, dictyostele. Ectoploic solenostele, pith is in the center and the xylem is surrounded by the phloem. Example, Asmunda. Amphiploic solenostele, pith is in the center, phloem is present on both the sides of xylem. Example, adiantum. Dictyostele, the stele is separated by vascular strands. Each strands are called meristele. Example, adiantum. And then eustele, the stele split into a distinct collateral vascular bundle. Collateral vascular bundle is nothing but a wedge-shaped vascular bundle, which is observed in dicot stem. And atactostele, the stele is split into distant collateral vascular bundles and are scattered on the ground tissues. Example, monocostum. And polycyclic steel, the vascular tissues are present in the form of 2 or more ring-like or concentric cylinders-like structure, cylinder shape. This is called polycyclic steel. Example, pteridium. Yes, this is the steeler development which is first initiated from the pteridophytes. After that, you learn about the gymnosperm, the angiosperm. All these development of gymnosperm and angiosperm, they have the steels are present. You learn briefly about these xylem and phloem arrangement. Thank you, students. If any doubt, you can call me. I will clarify you. Thank you very much, students. God bless you.